couldn't walk to your door, couldn't bear to call.
Welcome to the Radiant Enchantress Show today. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, my name is Jane May Jones, and I'm one of the founders of the initiative and this podcast show. About 4 years ago, I wrote a book called Living and Succeeding, a memoir of Dyslexic Entrepreneur. And in that book, I talk about my rules to live by. Annissa-coy and I decided to do mini podcasts about these 8 rules. You can download my book for free and read them for yourself, or you can listen to this series of podcasts, or even come to one of our retreats and hear in person how to implement them in your life and start on your journey to self-awareness, self-joy, and self-love. Thank you for joining us on this podcast and others, which you can find at magicalearthwomen.com. Today, we're going to talk about forgiveness. So, Annissa, can you tell me your experience with forgiving and how that has felt to you when you've forgiven someone, even if you haven't said it to them, their faces, or it was something that happened, maybe 30 years ago or 20 years ago. How has that felt? What was your process?
One of the most impactful parts to me about learning to forgive and how to forgive and about the whole concept of forgiveness was wrapping my mind around that concept. I used to always think that forgiveness meant to say to somebody, it's okay what you did. It's okay what you said. It's okay. And I had a very difficult time wrapping my mind around that, right? Because some of the things that, you may be dealing with are can actually be some pretty awful things that you need to forgive someone for. And in my particular instance, when I was doing this workshop, and they wanted me to forgive my father. And I really had a tough time wrapping my head around that. I just could not understand how you could just, someone does these kind of awful things and then you're just supposed to forgive. And what I learned through the process was that the forgiveness was actually for myself mostly. And that in the process of forgiving, it was forgiving myself as well as for holding on to the shame and guilt and anger and those emotions for all those years, because I did not release this particular instance for about 30 years. I held on to it. And so the process of forgiveness for me also is not about like going up to him or that person and giving them forgiveness and saying it to their face. I actually wrote a letter and never gave it to him. I wrote it, read it out loud, and then burned it was actually my process. So that's another thing that, forgiving, again, it's primarily something for yourself. And then it does not have to be done face-to-face and in person with someone. I basically just put it out to the universe and released that awful energy that I had held on to for so long. And there's some different, ways to do that. That the particular process that I used was writing the letter and then, like I said, reading it out loud and burning it. And it was very effective for me. And it's kind of similar to what I even do today. If I find myself needing to release, forgive. And, how about you, Jane? Like what?
Yeah, very similar. Forgiveness is one of my rules to live by, which I wrote about in the book I wrote, Living and Succeeding. And I guess it was Sean Stevenson that helped me through this one. He had a program that we bought. It was like a home study program. And part of it was to sit and write letters to whoever had hurt you and hurt you to the point where you were still holding on to it.
Right.
And so there were a couple of things. And the first one, when I was a child, I don't know, maybe I was 10, 11, and I was overweight, and I was severely bullied at school because of that. And for the longest time, I just kept that in, and it sort of built up in my psyche that was, being heavy or fat or however you want to say it, was my dilemma. It was all my fault, and it was my fault that I was being bullied and all of this stuff. And so he said, Sean in his program said, just like you said, is you sit down and just write a letter. You don't have to send it anywhere. I mean, this boy, I have no idea where he is. He might be dead for all I know. I really have no idea.
Right.
And so I sat down and wrote him a letter. And I forgave him for bullying me all that time. And it was like a weight went off my shoulder.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But once the weight has left you, that stuff that you've kept in the very fiber of your body, it just it makes you freer and more powerful, because you've got rid of that bad energy, like you said, but you've regained that freedom, that sense of relief that comes with that whole process.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I do on a fairly regular basis, maybe not every day, but I have a meditation process, and part of that meditation process is to forgive. And usually I forgive a couple of people. There's this young man who bullied me. I have an aunt who is ill, and she is just mean to people. So I forgive her as often as I possibly can for being in the state that she's in. But then I also forgive all the people in the world that are terrorists or mean to others or have killed others or whatever it is they've done. Because for me, although they've acted out something horrible, they're in pain. There's something sad going on in those people's lives.
Right.
So I forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I send them all of my love and all of my light and hope, in the hopes that they live, if they're alive, a pain-free and happy life.
Wow. It's amazing, Jane. When you said that a few minutes ago about the weight. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I literally felt like an elephant was lifted off my chest after that exercise. And the space that all of that negative, it wasn't just, it was like, there was anger, there was hate, which I don't like to use that word, but I don't know any other word to there were just a lot of horrible energy wrapped around my needing to forgive in that instance. And it literally altered my body at a cellular level to get rid of that. Like literally, after that particular event, and that being probably one of the most powerful tools that I learned there that weekend, and I was there for 3 days. Literally my family, my husband, we'd been married for 20 years at that point. The next day after I did that exercise, they all were like, what did you do this weekend? You like seemed different. Like it was a literal shift on a cellular level. So to be able to have a practice of forgiveness, and again, it's not just about those who transgress you. It's about, I remember an amazing teacher of mine once said, you forgive the person that did the transgression, or you feel did the transgression against you. You forgive yourself for allowing it, and you forgive yourself for holding on to it. and release that back into the universe. And I just think that that's really powerful, because when you do that and free up that space and alter yourself and get that negative energy out of your cells, it opens up your ability to be more, as we're going to talk about some of these other things to live our life by, to have love and positive, good energy and graciousness and things come into your space.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And what was I going to say? It's gone.
And, I think when we've, at the Radiant Enchantress retreats, I'm doing an exercise like this, I think is just a huge shift. I remember one of the retreats that we did together, there was a huge shift in the energy around our campfire that night and all of the women that were there when we did that forgiveness sharing after one of our things that we did that day, our exercises that we did.
Yeah.
And I think that it causes a really huge shift.
Yeah. Yeah. The other part of this is sometimes if you, so if you wrote a letter, for example, which I advise everybody to do, read it out loud, because just writing it doesn't have the power or the vibration of saying it out loud. You can say it out loud to no one. You can be on your own in the room, because those vibrations, those sound signals travel through the universe, and it sets a whole different vibration for you in the universe. And the universe knows that you're doing it. And it really, really does help you. And again, like you were just saying, at the retreats that I run, I give out my book, and I often talk about my rules to live by. They're so important.
And Jane, that I love that you mentioned that about vibration. Like that letter that I had read. I mean, it was like a 2-page letter, and I read it by myself, sitting in the middle of my hotel bed in the hotel where I was staying at this event. And I had these words in my head for years. I mean, years that these words were here and those feelings. And I had never, ever in my life voiced them. I'd never heard the vibration of it. And listening to myself reading that letter was, I believe, part of that shift. And you're right, that the vibration of letting go all of that ugliness that was in me. I mean, when we think of forgiving someone, right, we think that they have ugliness in them. Well, if we have the anger, the hurt, possibly the hate, the bad feelings, we've got that negative awfulness in us. Right?
For sure.
So, I'm really glad you mentioned that about the vibration, because I think that's a definite huge shift for you.
Yeah, I think when we do these things in the Radiant Enchantress retreat, you take the time, you have the time to be able to not be in your busy world and surrounded by all of your things that are going on that are distracting you. You can be very focused, and that also helps the whole process. Of writing those letters and just feeling the shift when it's all done.
And Jane, the women that the retreats attract, that are drawn to the message, maybe they've been listening to podcasts or they've found the website. They are beautiful women that are attracted to this message, which is when you're there at the retreats, you are in a completely safe, peaceful environment that, yes, being away from all of the stresses of life and away from all of the daily things that put pressure on you, that occupy your mind and keep you busy, where you can't focus, and then being in that kind of energy with other women around you that are loving and supportive and caring and non-judgmental and patient, and is just a really great environment to be able to do this and really let go of things. And this process is not a one-time thing, right? I mean, it's as you said, you have a daily practice, and I should really, I know you've shared that with me before. I really should. I can't say that I have a daily practice, but I do practice forgiveness a lot and often, because things come up, even small things. I do it with now. I don't just save it for, really big, like I do it a lot for even small things, because then they don't become the big things.
Yeah. And what's nice, another sort of nice thing about doing these things at the retreat is that once you've done it, and you've done it with a group, and then you know how to do it, then you can take it home, and it's something you can use over and over again, as often as you need to keep yourself from having all of that negative energy inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. You too, Jane.
So we'll talk again on the flip side, as they say.
Right.
And we'll broach another subject, okay?
Sounds
Thanks.
great.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this enchanting conversation today, and we look forward to having a new conversation with you in our next show. Our shows will be broadcast approximately every 2 weeks. We wish you much love and light in your life today. Thank you.